nang 조냐 민감이 같이 와리 sen 남도 차량도 봐 속치 보죠. 지금 지시가 하고네. 드네지 심히 시바데 너무 왕도 맞춰라. 따뜻한 타투고 들고 차서 비슷해. 드네 바보 열린 남자를 말해 시바양 세리. 그 가이네 그 고차라더니 드네 마초 받아는 고차고 이제 서고에 미적봐. 드네 바오 드네 이제 사요 말이지 정말요 말이지. 이거를 드네 거서 다단 거서 투바점나 드네 근데 자카자카 방은 드네 동행 조용 거리 드네 자카 초로 빼지나기 드네 다 토리선 고사족세도 라스로 띵이 송섬나 라왕촌에 띵이 송섬에 참자고 요리랑 이런 거 얘기한 거에 너는 샘남도데 number 일을 잘하나 드네 그래서 내가 말했더니 사지 공방 터서를 때 설라인 짓고 말이 노지창 공방에서 되게 대강리들이 다사시더니 나도 number 지역간이 샤프된 거 쓰이네 되게 number보다 파왕 좋다는 드닝문이잖니 나도 도봉 나도 치기구나 그 샵적까지 무시해서 그거에 그 고차진 초도 저거다데 바오일레 남자 라마나 송더니 세상은 소마다 세상마다 다 동치 모여래 기척이라는 마치 모여래 드릭스 때딱게 담으라는 거 나도 저거 나타탄 열리 자성어 밤송 오 남도 어디 시랍디 시랍이 너무 와서 쇼소나 다 산이 셔차되더니 레롱 기선 장다 시랍디 너무 완전히 바도니 너무 완전히 갑들이 바도니 우리 거기 성성들은 무슨 제로요래 제대로 로서 각각 민요래 세상기 타마 냠도 노도지 차는 걸 냐와라 그래 신나기 삼아 노도지 차는 걸 해라 그래 지지는 담로에 레롱 기선 장성 실롱 기술을 시절에 그냥 뭐 잡지 처광도 들어오래 이 시대 매일매일 나를 고았던 달러들이 문이 고차들이 생각도 너무 많은 마셔봐 이렇게
So that armor-like diligence, that is very important when it actually comes to practice. When things arise. So, for example, when strong anger or attachment arises, you recognize it with awareness. And sustaining clear awareness, you do not become controlled by the afflictive emotion. And that is the actual armor, like diligence, like an armor. Like in the Serkangma, that prayer in the morning, it said that this heroic or courageous guru that is victorious over all. So if you are going to a battle, then you put on an armor. Then nothing can harm you, nothing can hurt you. Then you have nothing to fear. Also, when two countries fight, for example, when you lose out, when you are defeated, then the country experiences a lot of suffering. So now when you lose your bodhicitta, then you lose hope of birth in the 3 higher realms. And then you have no control, no choice but to wander in the 3 lower realms and experience a lot of suffering there. If you're able to be victorious over the thoughts and emotions, you will not go into the 3 lower realms. When you attain enlightenment, the state of Vajradhara, there's nothing to be afraid about. So when afflictive emotions and thoughts arise, you recognize them with clear awareness, and this awareness defeats, overcomes these afflictions. And so this one awareness can defeat even 10,000 afflictive emotions. So that's actually meant by this line in the Serkangma, which is really very meaningful, and each of those lines in there is actually very powerful. So you should really think about that and look at your mind all the time. When thoughts arise, you should see whether you are defeated by the thought or you are victorious over the thought. You have conquered the thought. Now, what happens when your awareness becomes overpowered by the affliction, when the affliction controls your mind, then also later, after you have died, you will follow naturally the winds of karma. So if now awareness is overpowered by afflictions, then in the bardo, when these afflictions arise, then instantly and in a very direct way, you take birth in the 3 lower realms. It ripens very directly. And what we call hell is where all those beings with a lot of anger come together. And so this is what we call hell. And then the place where all the beings with stinginess or greed come together is the hungry spirit realm. So at that time, you will then follow the winds of karma without any control over it. And then there's also the wisdom winds, and that is your clear awareness, which is like fire too. And this clear awareness overcomes, it defeats all afflictive emotions. So therefore, because it conquers them, it is victorious over them, it doesn't become controlled by them, that is why it is like armor.
Then tatang also the Roman Batavi the Sanchoche Yore Sanchoche the party Namshi Samche Latini Serganani in Kosora Sanchok Sem Masoke Musa Samche Chene. This Samche Chene Samche Dandi Meba Chan Sim Jibocha. But Samche Chene Toya Your Maria. Say something big guy, doesn't go to Chatashi made the Bojakure. Me Pasco, Chatashi made the Bojanga, magic something with the Chatashi made the car, so Tapamin and roll your magic the Jawashika, this something Tapas and Toya on my. Three days heavy body, the something just up generally. Say about Sajik Jung, the Hakon, something, the Hakon. There's about same about one of those. This is the Jaka to some of them, this is the domain to some of them. This is the domain to Dandy or some, this is something, someone. This is the domain to Lam to change, this is something, chapter. This goes only sense of something, Chapter. Then same Dadi Chagron of the Shanity, Require around Topsy. Then Chotongo China, Charon the Shosona, Takoni Chokra on Tokura. Thanks to the Bay, then the Picabee Jara. Then Chudong Charon Shadora, that Chokora on your Jing and Tom to your coroner thing because you pay in a require on talk about the Danzi may go. Danzi may pardon something may tango your head. This something Jinj, Danzi, George, something may pardon to the Amado, that Chatashi may pay. So the drawing at it, so I gave them something you did, Toya maybe. Then something you did, Chile. Talk about around talk with Dadi in the Chago, Dadi, the Chanata. Shrub your great, around the take also Lawson, Nis Hivanoji. Then the master of Hivano Hako. 3 parties now have something around you, now some you come shadow. Something around you, shall come. They carry the business that meet someone, something he meets a woman. Did not come to go to each other. Tragedy, someone about it. Benefit Ariga, Michimota, Kachele, Gassici, she's already young. Take care of her. Oh, they could saw I watching her. But some something is a talk with you. Yeah. What there is something told it. Dama told him the Jawaji says on the I Obama. Jawaji in Zabel, the tea of I'm living Kavatoni. Be. But me call Harvard. Be rather. Oh, this is double Dawati. Dawati told the quarter, Tando Batangore, Cordon, Dawa told me Marisanti told Salty told material around you, get out of a quarter the annual door. Dawa Chatham Tonatri, don't they have quality, something at all, but they participating of the Nisabana Chigore. Tell us that around top of the something worries, dancing me about worries, the younger. Something only Charon should not penny, Chok Betty, the Veil, the Tasatadi, Wachati, Dot the Raman, Rapakin one of Masora. The Charon Masona, Charon, Peter, Chotata, Rama Yori. Charon Chatter Ramang Yomai. There is some other days. Some districts by Usumachia, Christian was a Kocha, that is.
Many of you are familiar with the Changjok practice that we do, the inscription ceremony for the deceased, for the Bardo consciousness. And actually, when we are doing this puja, what is really happening is that we are actually sending them love. We are actually sending them bodhicitta. And then being infused with love, their self-grasping dissolves, and they will reach a state of happiness. And so this love that we are sending them is something we cannot see with our eyes. For example, people have cats and dogs, and because you love your cat or your dog, they follow you around wherever you go. You don't need even a leash, they follow you anyways. And so that's actually the bond of love. The bond of love is something that we cannot see, but it's there. And once you understand the quality of that, you know I have to make an effort to cultivate love until it becomes immeasurable or boundless love. And so you think about how many sentient beings there are, and then you think about how much they suffer, and that the root of their suffering is self-grasping. And so the moment that when their suffering arises in your mind, then instantly you will be able to pervade them with love, if you habituate to that. And then the ice of their self-grasping is melting. And so this is how awareness attains freedom, becomes free. Now when the weather gets cold, then the water freezes into ice. And when the ice melts, then the water again is free. So as long as it's ice, it's not free. And when it's water, it's free again. Like we can see in our reflecting pool. Just a few days ago, it was frozen and very difficult. There was no freedom to the water. And now it's freely flowing again. It's melted. So in order for awareness to become free, we need to get rid of self-grasping. And we get rid of it if we develop love. And so then you might wonder, can I also eliminate the self-grasping in others if I cultivate love? So that is something we can really understand through this previous example with the cat and the dog. They feel our love, so we are connected. And it's something that we can't see with our eyes, but it can be felt. And that's the quality of love. So we can see how our love can reach their mind because they can feel it. So yes, we can eliminate also their self-grasping. So in order for awareness to attain freedom, we need to eliminate self-grasping. And for that, we need to sustain mindfulness. And every time you wake up, you remind yourself. It is like you understand that whatever appears is like a cloud or like an illusion. And later when you come to the bardo, if you have habituated to this, then instantly love arises. And with that, naturally the Pure Lands become manifest. The nature of the Pure Lands is actually love. Just imagine if everyone in this room, for example, would be loving and kind. Then everyone would be each other's friend. We would be very friendly with each other. We would say hello to each other, give each other gifts, and so on. For example, in America, when a great person who did great things dies, then they have this really elaborate funeral ceremony for them to in honor of what they have done. And so that is how love arises, because they have done good things. So in this way they receive love. But also there's a way to, on the other hand, one may receive the resentment of others. For example, when this terrorist, Osama bin Laden, had been killed, at that time, everyone did that thinking of him with a resentful mind. And now as a result of that, he also has to experience suffering because he has caused a lot of harm. So we should not become someone like that who receives the resentment of others, but should become one who receives the love of others. And then one will naturally experience happiness. So now when we cultivate love and we want to benefit this bardo consciousness, then for the bardo consciousness, receiving our love, it is just like waking up from sleeping at that time. And their awareness will become free, because then love arises also in their mind, and that destroys their self-grasping. So really think about this again and again, how it really happens like an ice block, and when it melts, it is free-flowing water. So this armor, or armor from the armor-like diligence, that really is what is achieved with this armor, is a freedom of awareness, like free-flowing water that is free, that is freedom. Ice is in an unfree state. So when you understand that, then you will see the importance of sustaining and cultivating love with mindfulness.
Today, chokbar medieval tourism, chokpa mati bata gewa soji pen sanchok semde tata nimbar gong mati chin manam gosa dri yang gosam jinsi pambi gosa ko te mati gewa serap mashi bar te mati gewa serap tamje sang maje bar sanchok semde ta ko ja go sene te ma chung kama tel tin yuwa semge sanchok semde la tin 텔레팀을 사와 탐제들이 가세잖아. 그 바로 좀 마신 버리 점방하나 빼놓고 상진한테들이 보다 중나 리달로도 소상 개발들이 이제 왔다 온 거예요. 다시 상진마도 요만데 등상 소리자는 망보요를 생기서나 본인 민망보 삼시 라니메 이는 높아 안 마땅 독단 속이 좋아한 버서들이 랑을 모남잡네 루제 드리심진 sab지를 매라탄 PC sab지니도 대사 sab지 사다 용구요리 대sab지 소시도게 제도 말이 이분이서 사제 때부터 제도 거기 대다서 해도 대다 할이야 다다 요리 PC 때에 들지도 게서 왔다 딱 기와 처럼 처럼들 모남게 안에 벤들이 촉발맞은 바 다다는 기사 가시는 로나들이 랑게 망두가 말 때문에 가시게 니바 자손을 저거에 맞더라 좀 저거에 말 같은 도 참나 초발이 야마야 요 말이 저들이 기타 잘라서 봐 시고가 맞아 마셔야 이제 가고 말면 저도 잠깐 봐잖아 님씨 매바는 지니 거로 말면 저서 빼서는 맞아봐래 제자버지 교사한테 촉시 오네 말이 촉발만 집에 같이 넣는다고 요래 그 가야 되는 그 감성생긴 처음 매발이 제삼실은 삼내들이 그사세 촉발만 집에 들어오지 같이 넣을 만도 말이지
And then third, there is the insatiable diligence. So you cannot get enough of practicing virtue. For example, if you practice bodhicitta all day long, then eventually you will also remember it when you're sleeping and when you're dreaming. And then day and night, continuously, it is in your mind. And if it's always in your mind, then it will also be carried into future lives. And then from lifetime to lifetime, it will be in your mind. So bodhicitta, also according to our aspiration, we cultivate it until we attain the state of enlightenment. That is the aspiration. And then if bodhicitta is in your mind, then all your activities of body and speech become the paramitas, like generosity, like the Buddha's activities, the Buddha who had given up his kingdom, his son, his wife, his body, his resources, even his own life force. So that is something we feel that only the Buddha is able to do, but actually nowadays there are several, all kinds of people who are able to really give up their own life force for the sake of others, for the sake of sentient beings. For example, in Tibet there have been these emulations with fire, and actually some of them really came from this altruistic intention. And instead of like throwing bombs or poisoning others and weapons and making weapons and so on, instead of doing any of that, they made prayers and then set their own body on fire and just took on that suffering and accepted that pain. And they did that for the benefit of sentient beings and the Buddha's teachings. So that is really quite amazing, actually. So then, whatever virtue we practice, then it's through the power of aspiration, prayer, it then will be carried from lifetime to lifetime into all future lifetimes. So insatiable diligence means that it is never enough. It is never too much or enough. You should always practice more. And sometimes people ask, how many mantras do I have to recite? Is it enough if I do 100 or just 10? Actually, there is no number to it. It's never enough, actually. You can never have enough mantras. Whenever you can, you should pick up your mala and recite as many mantras as you can. There's never a time where you're done and you can put your mala down, actually. So ideally, actually, you would refrain from any idle talk and just say what's necessary, and then the rest of the time just recite Om Mani Padme Hum, for example. And some people do that really day and night, and even at night when they wake up, they say Om Mani Padme Hum. So that's really actually an incredible practice of virtue. So there is no end. One should not be content with one's practice of virtue. It's never actually enough, because we have to think about how many sentient beings there are in the 3 realms of samsara. And we need to benefit them. When we bring all of that to mind, we can see that there is really no limit to our practice of virtue.
That's something in a song. True, you should not home though. This is something in the Milarepa song, and let how you is not young, passing the machine, something that in the way of a mambo or conversation, something Sabania to just something, to cheap or something, tentative or something last of a table minister, she with the table, home, Mary. Detta she do table for Joyore, the what is your what Nangore, she do na. And trade, just something she was a carry, lump trapase was a gom jayari, second nero toilet, second nero toilet, test of cheddar is something. Something she was at Lani Sodumata, she lays a hang she lays something. That's him with Neruk Chatawa, so you Neruk the Hako to your money, Teresa, Churdina, Jillian Chur, the Marek Bad, Dajin Lamin Church, Dajin Zin, Three Jevlin Church, the Tata, Dominant Devalan Church, Deval Dominant Church, this time in a Landro Colosar, this time a child with church, just to watch him at home, to watch him on the car. Don't day him according to Sir Jetsu Party. The Sir Jetsu Party, so I got lick up Sanjay song and any simply number Sanjay, won't lower to measures. Simply jetted that shut up my gentle what in a young lower a pacha, iron the bass, Nazin George, no what I have to Kadi Chinatin J. She was that day of Shakari. Jay the Tato, Nanzin George, Ma some D, Ma the Jerry's. The Ma the Chabaka, Yasina. Sajik, Ma me Balanga, Da me Balada, Jesus of Goris. Luda, you ma, Luther is Sanguari Bari. Lumaris, Sembris, Luther Daji, Metadon. Talajororas, that's what knock out. That's Sembris. That's him when they wrote so Takidana. The Longalatina public women Tava. The Yamisha with their Palisado, Tavatis, and the same when they looked to board, but the same when they looked to what's in the power. They published that there is something over your. 특별히 정부 개발할 때 심지 자치정을해서 특별히 뭐지 대 사바지면 도나 송도 보충도 대두 각시만 뭐 통는 싫어하고 마서 특히 배세 잠소라 특별히 정부 빠지쳐 송도 타바지면 도나 사실 까리 뒤에서 상무들 가르치네 야 잠치쳐다 바지 쳐들어 봐줘 그 송지질 초충통 거래 너 초충통 자충통 그 다양도 싸는 것도 않고 하네 야 쳐지가 찍바래 진짜 제발 가래 오 쳐지 자시 종이도 Tela Tina Tini, Sabajacho Satos in the Conondo. Tata that semi, Tabo Sabat semi in Gotote, Tagong, the three Sabat semi machi partition. Sabat semi jet up to the same Jasher Royo. They same Quang the Jacho Maina young. Do you the Dunk Dot and Yin Chin? Please that train and Charo, that child, the South Hakoso. They let you to watch the other society. They were the quality. So mambo to the tongue to Tabatin door at the Hakoso. They had to watch it on the Tata the dark about Hajam Chung Dandi under Chagong Dog, so are the area. Three Yiping Lord Chung gets the whole rank of person Chuma, three Pama, three Satan save the Chapel, Kanga Seva or Teta Chapel, three Salodam, three Justice song, the same Gonola, Tata Horanga Kang, Seva total gone. Three is told the Tabati, but check down me, but three big gone, three Chipsy pins gone. The Jacalo was on Justice was only. It's taking with the piece. 3 minutes to the Jacko Doro. 17 something center. Saji sent Jackie on the top. Just the man the Pado or Quashason. This is Trava. Sevalet something about it. To watch it on top of Cherry. To watch a walker, send with the top of Cherry. Gaure, Tritter, Hidona. Pasito Pata de Shidona, Maki and Tom Mary, drinking was in the tutorial.
The next is the parameter of concentration, meditative concentration. It says, with confusion, one cannot realize the Mahayana's teachings. One pointedly familiarized with the meaning. So here again, Milarepa explains the point of meditation in very simple terms. Of course, if we were to really study the traditional scriptures on the paramitas, just on the parameter of meditative concentration, for example, there are many different divisions mentioned in those scriptures, and I cannot number or list all of them now. There's like the meditative concentration of placing the mind in a state of loving kindness, and the meditative concentration of the Tathagatas, and so forth, different kinds. But you should read those books, and also maybe Khenpo Tenzin can help you with that. I myself cannot really see those texts so well anymore. But now here, and how it is explained here now, meditative concentration to clear away confusion. So because of confusion, we cannot see the meaning of the Mahayana, he says. So in order to clear away confusion, we need to engage in practice. We need to meditate. So what this realize the Mahayana's teachings here really refers to is to realize the nature of the mind. And that's also explained in the 37 practices, the verses on calm abiding and insight. So because the mind is confused, in a state of confusion, because we cannot see our true nature as it really is, on the basis, that is why we are confused. That is confusion. That leads to further confusion. So this fundamental lack of knowing your own true nature as it is called the confusion on the basis, the fundamental confusion, fundamental ignorance. And then there is the confusion on the path, and that is to grasp at a self-other duality. And then there is a confusion on the result, in terms of the result, and that is to confuse suffering for happiness and happiness for suffering. So we are seeing things in a distorted way, not how they really are. That is what we call confusion. So the meaning of the Mahayana teachings here is that first we need to understand the view of those teachings, and that is the indivisible single basis of samsara and nirvana, the single basis of the mind. The Buddha had said all beings are actually Buddhas. They are only obscured by temporary stains. The basis of mind is like ocean water. But still, it is because of temporary habitual imprints, especially this imprint of an I, this sense of an I, that temporarily we are in a state of confusion. For example, people always talk about evil spirits and demons and so on. We always speak about demons. But actually it is said that the greatest demon of all is the grasping at an I. The real demon is this concept of an I. And that is what confuses the mind. And the reason why it is called confusion is because the Buddha said that you are believing in an I that does not really exist. You're holding on to a self that does not exist. And you might refute and think that, of course I exist, here I am, I'm pointing at your body. But you are not your body. So your body actually will eventually perish and be burned into ashes. So then where are you? Then I'm the mind. But when you really look at the mind, for example, when you look at it from the perspective of the Madhyamaka, the middle way school of the scriptures, or also from the perspective of the practice blessing lineages of Mahamudra and Dzogchen, when you look at your mind and you really understand the nature of the mind, you see that there is no self to be found within there. And so that's the purpose of practicing meditation, meditative concentration. It is to realize the nature of the mind. And so now when we speak about the different vehicles, like the greater vehicle or lesser vehicle, the difference between those vehicles, different levels of practice, is the vastness, the extent of your bodhicitta. Now, when I was very young, I actually had already received many teachings, but when I was young, I didn't really understand all of them. But I came across a quote in the Great Liberation Sutra regarding the difference between the vehicles. And in the sutra it says that the mind of a Mahayana, of the greater vehicle, is like the vast ocean water, and the mind of the lesser vehicle is like the water collecting in the footprint of a cow. So it's just the same water really, but it's a different size, a different amount of water. Ocean water is vast, and the cow footprint water is not very much. But it's still the same in essence, it's still the same water. So that's the difference between the vehicles. The vast motivation of bodhicitta is like this vast ocean. So you develop the four immeasurables, beginning with immeasurable love. And the greater your love becomes, the more vast your mind becomes. So actually there is no really size, no measure to the mind, but it is due to our temporary perception of things, because we perceive as subject, object, self-other duality, we become like ice blocks in water. And that makes us seem to be very small, even though water is actually vast. So first you need to understand that really, really clearly. This is really how I personally had understood the difference between the vehicles through the Great Liberation Sutra. When we grasp at the self, the more we grasp at the self, the more the mind becomes like bound up, contracted, the smaller it gets. And it feels like being a solidified block of ice. And when one's altruism is very limited, then one can really, at best, just think about one's family, one's children, and so on. So the greater you love, the more pervasive the mind becomes. Whoever you love, your mind pervades them, that being, that person. Lord Jigten Sumgön had taught in the stages of cultivating bodhicitta. He said that first, bring to mind any companion, anyone that you love the most, and then meditate on that, and then consider that everyone, all beings have been like that, and then gradually you expand your love to your family and your surroundings, your country, and so on. And then your mind becomes really vast in the end. So actually the mind of the Buddhas and sentient beings is exactly the same. The difference is just the extent of love, how vast their love is. That's the only difference. Just like water and an ice. So this confusion here that prevents us from realizing the nature of the mind, this confusion is cleared away through meditation, through meditative concentration, and ultimately realizing the nature of the mind. So anyways, about the paramita of meditative concentration, if you'd like to know more about that, I myself cannot read all of these scriptures, but you can ask Khenpo Tenzin your questions about that.
남도 제사로 초라야지 남도 모심기 시바세 뭐잖아 시바지 즉마도 매와 남도 진짜마라 요나 남도 모심기 시바지 즉매반다와 즉이방 뭐시나 뒤간지 시바세 즉대 다시 바세 즉 어디 시바지 이지 시바다 라기 시바 따데라 오 라니 다지니 매바세 즉 야, 대야 시설로 따지니 다 사제에 탐제제 비시랍당 다 섬진 탐제에 내로도 보시랍니가 다 님에와 하거든 고대이가 찍찍찍찍 니치 탐제 찍的니소를 들이대 다 찍찍 송고요래 대다월이 찍찍 바지 동티 동체 보여야지 말아봐 책을 같이 보여야 이 대기들이다 책책들 가리라 버리 되나더니 다다 무슨 것도 보면 안 하네 고대가 이제를 남이 이제 샘도 주바래 셀람이 요리송 그것도 보면 안 하네 그냥 가서 왔어 그래 동생 군상하로 들이 한번더
So it says one-pointedly here, and this term one-pointedness, that's actually a very powerful word in itself. So it has also different levels to it. So first, when you first look at your mind, you will see so many thoughts as there are dust motes in a ray of sun. There just seems to be an endless chain of thoughts arising in your mind. But no matter how many thoughts proliferate in your mind, you should recognize there is this clear knowing awareness that is aware of all these thoughts. And that awareness you need to recognize. There are many thoughts arising, but there is just this one awareness, this one clear awareness that witnesses all these thoughts arising. And that is the one, that's what we call here one-pointed awareness. And then this one-pointed awareness, it also means there's just one awareness, comes down to one. And then next, then this awareness, once you have recognized it, then you realize that it is the same in yourself and everybody else. Self and other are non-dual. So you bring this awareness to a single point in a sense of non-duality, being inseparable from others. And once you understand that although there are many thoughts, there's just one awareness, and then this one awareness is non-dual between self and other, then you recognize that the omniscient wisdom of the Buddha and the wisdom that realizes the nature of mind of sentient beings, those two kinds of wisdom are actually inseparable. And that is the single point of samsara and nirvana. So one-pointedness also refers to bringing everything back to one point, a single basis. This is a very meaningful term, actually. And actually, all of Milarepa's words are really very powerful, each and every one of them. So that is what is meant with one-pointedness here. And that is actually also explained very clearly in the Samantabhadra prayer. It says in the beginning, samsara and nirvana have a single ground, yet two paths and two fruition. So the single basis is the mind. There is just a single basis of mind, but there is two paths and two fruitions. Today it will be good to read the Samantabhadra prayer as a dedication.
Okay, so in our blue prayer book, page 40. Yeah, page 40. Ho, everything, appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions, and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. Through Kuntu Zampo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharmadhatu. The ground of all is uncompounded, and the self-arising great expanse beyond expression has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are a being wandering in samsara. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. I, Kuntu Zampo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just this self-arising awareness. It is unstained by outer expression and inner thought, affirmation, or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of mindfulness. Thus, this self-manifesting display is free from defects. I, Kuntu Zampo, abide as intrinsic awareness. Even though the three realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the five desirable qualities of sense objects. In self-arising consciousness free of thoughts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. In the unceasing clarity of awareness, singular in essence, there yet arises the display of the five wisdoms. From the opening of these five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families emerge, and through the expanse of their wisdom, the 42 peaceful Buddhas appear. Through the arising power of the five wisdoms, the 60 wrathful Herukas manifest. Thus, the ground awareness is never mistaken or wrong. I, Kuntu Zampo, am the original Buddha of all, and through this prayer of mine, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara realize this self-arising awareness, and may your great wisdom spontaneously increase. My emanations will continuously manifest in billions of unimaginable ways, appearing in forms to help you beings who can be trained. Through my compassionate prayer, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara escape from the 6 life forms. From the beginning, you beings are deluded because you do not recognize the awareness of the ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion, the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray. From this delusive state comes a sudden fainting away, and then a subtle consciousness of wavering fear. From that wavering there arises a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. Gradually, the tendency of separation strengthens, and from this the circle of samsara begins. Then the emotions of the 5 poisons develop. The actions of these emotions are endless. You beings lack awareness because you are unmindful, and this is the basis of your going astray. Through my prayer, may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. Innate unawareness means unmindfulness and distraction. Imputing unawareness means dualistic thoughts toward self and others. Both kinds of unawareness are the basis for the delusion of all beings. Through Kuntu Zangpo's prayer, may all you beings wandering in samsara clear away the dark fog of unmindfulness, clear away clinging thoughts of duality. May you recognize your own intrinsic awareness. Dualistic thoughts create doubt. From subtle attachment to this dualistic turn of mind, dualistic tendencies become stronger and thicker. Food, wealth, clothes, home, and friends, the 5 objects of the senses, and your beloved family, all these things cause torment by creating longing and desire. These are all worldly delusions. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. When the fruition of attachment ripens, you are born as a hungry ghost, tormented by coveting and desiring, miserable, starving, and thirsty. Through Kuntu Zangpo's prayer, may all you desirous and lustful beings who have attachments neither reject longing desires nor accept attachment to desires. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of perfect discernment. When external objects appear, the subtle consciousness of fear will arise. From this fear, the habit of anger becomes stronger and stronger. Finally, hostility comes, causing violence and murder. When the fruition of this anger ripens, you will suffer in hell by boiling and burning. Through Kuntu Zangpo's prayer, you beings of the 6 realms, when strong anger arises for you, neither reject nor accept it. Instead, relax in the natural state and achieve the wisdom of clarity. When your mind becomes full of pride, there will arise thoughts of competition and humiliation. As this pride becomes stronger and stronger, you will experience the suffering of quarrels and abuse. When the fruition of this karma ripens, you will be born in the God realms and experience the suffering of change and falling to lower rebirths. Through Kuntu Zangpo's prayer, may you beings who develop pride, let your consciousness relax in the natural state, and then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of equanimity. By increasing the habit of duality, by praising yourself and denigrating others, your competitive mind will lead you to jealousy and fighting, and you will be born in the jealous God realm, where there is much killing and injury. From the result of that killing, you will fall into the hell realm. Through Kuntu Zangpo's prayer, when jealousy and competitive thoughts arise, do not grasp them as enemies. Just relax in ease. Then consciousness can hold its own natural state. May you achieve the wisdom of unobstructed action. By being distracted, careless, and unmindful, you beings will become dull, foggy, and forgetful. By being unconscious, lazy, you will increase your ignorance, and the fruition of this ignorance will be to wander helplessly in the animal realm. through Kuntu Sangpo's prayer, may you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. All you beings of the three realms are actually identical to Buddhas, the ground of all, but your misunderstanding of the ground causes you to go astray, so you act without aim. The 6 karmic actions are a delusion, like a dream. I am the primordial Buddha here to train the 6 kinds of beings through all my manifestations. Through Kuntu Sampo's prayer, may all you beings without exception attain enlightenment in the state of Dharma Dhatu. Aho. Hereafter, whenever a very powerful yogin, with his or her awareness radiant and free from delusion, recites this very powerful prayer, then all who hear it will achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes. During a solar or a lunar eclipse, during an earthquake or when the earth rumbles, at the solstices or the new year, you should visualize Kuntu Sangpo, and if you pray loudly so all can hear, the beings of the 3 realms will be gradually liberated from suffering through the prayer of the yogin and will finally achieve enlightenment. Okay, in our yellow book on page 15, 15. For this realm, encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of every benefit and bliss without exception. Tenzin Gyamso, you who are one with Avalokiteshvara, may you remain steadfast until samsara's end. You are the embodiment of all the precious ones. You, a great being, are the holder and the promoter of the teachings of the Shakya lion. Your perfect actions are for the liberation of sentient beings. May you, the Jetsun Lama, whose enlightened activities are spontaneously present, live long. Precious holder of the triple gem of Drigungpa, who preserves the indisputable practice of the profound Dharma, who has realized the sublime truth which reveals peace and illumination. May you, who relieve the suffering of limitless beings, live long. The one known in the Holy Land is our emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chudengpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of the glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 aeons. In this age of strife, when the victor's teaching faces hardships, through his powerful Vajra-like conduct, he takes on himself the heavy responsibility of the unbiased teachings. May Garchen, the son of the teachings, live long. You who are richly endowed with the glorious wealth of Dharma knowledge, who through reflecting and meditating have actualized the self-aware, absolute reality, and shine with 100,000 light rays of the ethical discipline of the Buddha Dharma, may you, Kenshin Ratna Dwaza, live long. You possess the repository of the essence teachings of the past supreme Siddhas. You, the precious Konchok, are the refuge of all beings. You are the treasure trove of all the wish-fulfilling Norbus. Drubang Konchok Norbu, I supplicate you. By the power of the wealth of our devotion and virtue, and of the deities of the 3 roots and guardians, may the life of the Guru, glorious protector, hold firm, and his actions ceaselessly spread in the 10 directions. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 Chargagrajan kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate era. I prostrate to the Venerable Chenrezig, who shows whatever is needed to subdue those to be subdued.
Oi mane be me o re, oi mane be me o re, oi mane be me o re. everybody sang and等着他，这个人不去，被英语也不清个都，这真的了嘛？这考到不干这些，我干这些别考干了，我被英语也不了不到。
So Tuku Rinpoche here actually knows English really well, and so you should ask him questions. And then also Khenpo Tenzin is here, and he also knows English really well. So please come find them and ask them your questions.
Dạ. Thì anh nói cái gì thì yêu sao?